His son, also Jean-David Kahn, that you see there, who was involved as well in the business, and he took over after the death of Herbert Kahn, and now he has the Kahn AG Gallery in Basel. I myself have found repeatedly illicit antiquities depicted in the confiscated archives that I talked to you about before, in his gallery. Some of them, and most of them, came from Greece. They all have been repatriated so far to Greece. The latest example is the Lutrophoros and the Lekithos, the marble ones that you see at the corner lower, but also not only antiquities looted and smuggled while they had no record before they were discovered, but antiquities previously recorded and exhibited in archaeological sites and stolen from there, like the torso of the Lykios Apollo that you see in the middle lower part, stolen from Gortin archaeological site on exhibition, and only to be found in 2007 and 2008 at the Kahn AG Gallery and repatriated to Greece. So this continues to take place, the repeated offense, and there are no sanctions. The only sanction that they are suffering each time, whether museums, auction houses, dealers, galleries, or private collectors, is just to give back the objects, only the ones that have been identified as stolen, and keeping all the rest and continue untroubled their business and acquisitions. Another case, this time for private collectors, is the Steinhardts. Michaels and Judy Steinhardt, lots of antiquities, ad hoc individual cases have been identified in previous decades that have been stolen and yet have been made in their collection. But after I identified the so-called Sardinian goddess in December 2014 auction of Christie's in New York, and you can see this is the Christie's image for whom to give, I'm giving a copyright declaration, but also at the other side you can see the Medici image of the same prehistoric, very rare idol, missing part of the head, as you see, and broken in pieces before restoration. And with that opportunity, the District Attorney's Office in New York raided almost 3.5 years later the apartment of Michael and Judy Steinhardt in Manhattan, recorded the whole collection because they had this excuse, seized the Sardinian goddess, and gave the opportunity to myself, to Maurizio Pellegrini, to Daniela Riccio, and to dozens of other people in state authorities to work on this evidence and make identifications. And 180 objects were identified as stolen cultural property. They were returned to 12 different countries, amounted in value $69 million. And the only real sanction that the Steinhardts got was not even a slap on the wrist, really. He was forbidden to acquire any more antiquities for the rest of his life. So you can understand that if top authorities with really legal and judicial tools in their hands apply this kind of sanctions when they have all the opportunity, the evidential basis, the seizures by hundreds and so on, you can understand that there is a problem, and this is indeed an unpunished crime. The same is for the Levy Whites, often posing and being awarded as philanthropists, really, but their collection was whitewashed at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in 1990. They were found in 3 different occasions for Greece, Italy, and China, at the very least, with stolen material that they returned back in the early 2000s. And then they were equally raided 4 years ago, and we helped the authorities, the American authorities as well. I'm talking about Maurizio Pellegrini, Daniela Riccio, myself, and others, to make again identifications, and dozens of antiquities again unpublished, that they were kept inside the premises, the houses of the flat of Selby White were returned to so many countries. That shows that they are not changing their mentality, and again, they haven't suffered any punishment. She was even thanked by District Attorney's Office in their repatriation ceremonies and announcements. If you Google the case in the District Attorney's Office in New York, you will see repeatedly that Selby White is being thanked for her contribution and cooperation. I won't need probably to talk a lot about the Met, Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and so on. These are repeated offenders, indeed, in the sense that they had so many times, so many chances to check with the Italian authorities the objects that they keep in their collections, and take the initiative in order to produce positive headlines and not negative publicity against them whenever seizures are taking place, and they are taking place repeatedly from their premises, repatriated to various countries, even to Southeast Asia and beyond. The same, again, there is no sanction. It is an unpunished crime, but mainly they are not changing their mentality. They are not changing the modus operandi, the way that they are working and checking or not checking and cooperating with the authorities. They are not taking the initiative. But what can we do? Okay, it is very interesting to say what the problem is, but we have also to suggest a solution. I have suggested the solution, in reality repeating what other colleagues of mine much before have already suggested. And I'm talking about Dr. Neil Brody or Dr. Alessia Kush as well, with whom I'm happily cooperating the last few years. And that is the reversing the burden of proof. Instead of being as forensic archaeologists, as criminologists, the authorities, police and judicial authorities, the ones who should prove that something and why something is illicit, it should change this and should be the owner of an object that has to prove definitely before the sale takes place that what is offering is licit, is legal. I believe, and my colleagues believe, that if that takes place officially, incorporated in the legislations of various countries, it would radically, I'm not saying totally, but radically change the field in the antiquities market in general. Efforts of such have been discussed in various fora, one of which is the Glitz project, which is an EU-funded project that comes slowly to its completion, and we are about to contribute, many of us, to the editing volumes that the funders of this project in Groningen University, Francesco Giumelli and Pim Gilhob, are preparing. But to use a title taken from the third movie of Star Wars, A New Hope, there is a hope. And when I identified these Kilix that you see at the bottom from the Medici archive, whom you see in his arrest photograph back in 1997 in Switzerland, these Kilix from the Medici archive in the collection of Allard Pearson Museum at the University of Amsterdam in 2020 and published it in the Dutch and Greek press, I was very positively surprised to see that the reaction for the first time of the museum was actually, we want to cooperate with you because we want to clean up our collections, because we are taking a different ethical standard now and from now on. And indeed they proved that, because I asked for various security measures before I start cooperating with them to be sure that they indeed mean what they say. And indeed they put together a provenance research team. They changed the people who were heading their collections, and they are all now publishing first the objects that are being identified as illicit in their collections and not waiting for the authorities to knock their door, and therefore producing positive publicity for proving that they indeed have really high ethical standards instead of waiting to lose the objects and also being the press that they resisted for many years without doing their provenance research, their due diligence, and so on. A big change. Finally, I would say that if this is not going to be widespread in the other sections of the market and the buyers, we will continue to have the antiquities market we deserve. A market and clients that they will continue to be unpunished for their actions, for their activities. But now there is a new hope, and we are have put together already and proposed a project into looking first in European museums, this time for the first time in a continental level, working with the museum on their side and not against them for the first time, helping them to change their narrative, helping them to confront the recent past, not to be afraid to confront it, because actually it will be a win-win situation for them. And we are very excited and very optimistic that this can work as a project and beyond. Thank you so much for your attention. This is my... Thank you. This is my email address. I will be very glad to see any of you and all of you possibly during these 2 days that started today of the conference here. I will be here at the venue, but whoever would like to contact me either for a Zoom conference or any other meeting and beyond with any questions or suggestions for collaboration and so on, please use my email address and I'm very happy to talk to you. Thank you so much. Don't clap again. No. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm very eager to answer with my colleagues any questions you may have.
Let me do it right. Thanks a lot, Dr. Tsirogiannis. An inspiring presentation indeed. So before giving the floor to the audience, okay. Thanks a lot. Before giving the floor to the audience, there are some questions I'd like to make. First, for Professor Marc Balcells. So, what is the Spanish perspective out of this Greek paradigm you already presented to us?
Aye. This summer, sorry, can you hear me properly? Yeah? I don't know if it's working. Well, in any case, yeah? Bueno, now, this summer I had to break the vet news because I was checking police statistics in my part of the country. The Catalan police has a unit on cultural heritage crime, and since the last years, the numbers have triplicated. So it's going from bad to worse. Of course, these are numbers regarding prevalence and incidents that go unnoticed by citizenship because it's like, okay, it's not our everyday problem, but it's happening. And it's a very good question because in our case, even though, like for my dissertation, I studied looters, I find it very, very interesting as criminal characters and how they operate. But in our case in Spain, we don't have such a culture of tombs, so we'd rather have more metal detectorists, which is a little bit like the problem in the United Kingdom. We call them beepers, piteros, because they just go beep, beep, beep all the time. They roam fields, they know their history. They just go whenever they know there was a battle in there, in case they can find, like, I don't know, a Celtiber helmet, a sword, etc. And it's happening more and more. And the problem is that when you just find these, you destroy everything. It's like taking the elephant to the fine crystal shop. I mean, nothing can be recovered from that. Or like the director, the last director of cultural heritage in my part of the country said, it's like if you were producing research and somebody completely deletes everything you've done. Like there is no way of recovering what was there if that sword was laid there for any given reason, etc. So Spain is no different from Greece, from Italy. We are considered still a source country, and we'll hope for a better future, but it's in reality, there are no significant changes from what I presented to all of you here. The most notable difference, the fact that, it's not so much about digging rather than, metal detectors and the damage that they create to fields.
Great. Thank you. So, Dr. Tsirogiannis, you were not that optimist, but some other questions for you.
I think that he proved why, since he said that the case is tripled and worsening. So how can we be? Yeah.
You are right. So what are the gaps in academia regarding the illicit trade in antiquities? What else can be done?
I think everything can be done, really, because it's one huge gap in reality. And first of all, to say with this opportunity that I'm really grateful to the discipline of criminology, just because is hosting us for so many years, and I mean forensic archaeologists or other kind of archaeologists as well. It is really the discipline of criminology that is hosting the research, nearly all of it, research internationally on forensic archaeology or archaeology in this kind of sense. And it's not archaeology, the discipline of archaeology. So I'm extra in debt to the discipline of criminology for doing so. And there is a reason that this is happening. And when you hear that someone is a forensic archaeologist, for example, but there is no position in archaeology, you say, wait a minute, this is about trafficking of archaeological objects. Isn't primarily or equally to be positions around the world, both in criminology and archaeological departments. Yet, I can assure you that there is not a single chair anywhere in any university around the world, and that includes the affected countries, the so-called source countries that are basically affected by looting, no interest at all to establish anything about that. And one is saying why? Why there is an interest in criminology, obviously, and should be, but no interest at all in archaeology in any department of any university. Why there are, and they are very good, it is very good that they do exist, they are research centers anywhere around the world for any other kind of research, but there is not even a single one research center around the world dedicated long-term to illicit antiquities research and antiquities trafficking and the market of antiquities and so on. Nothing at all. The only research centers that were established, the one in reality, was the Cambridge Research Center of Illicit Antiquities, headed by, back then, Dr. Neil Brodie. And after 9 years, the university itself, the Department of Archaeology itself, withdrew the funds and shut it down. And there was a promise also from universities in the United States to be created something like that or bigger, and never been materialized. So why there is such a huge reluctance, such a huge gap of something to be established like that in the sector, in the wider discipline of archaeology? And I have published in the article that I show you, The Antiquities Market We Deserve, that this is due to the strong relationships that they are between the benefactors of the universities and the departments, who often themselves, or even if they are not themselves, others in their social circle, have antiquities collections that are basically unprovenanced. Which university, therefore, will use funds to establish a research circle that may go back and hit their own benefactors? Indeed, universities that they are truly ethical, but I haven't seen a single one so far, anywhere around the world.
So, thanks a lot. Maybe we could use AI tools. Maybe our tools are too old, and this is why we cannot achieve too much in this field. And this is a question for both of you. Yes.
I mean, this is going to be interesting. You know, I'm thinking from the point of view of fakes and forgeries. So this is a very debated issue when it comes to looted antiquities, the usage of internet. And literature, Christos, now we can talk about it, it's pretty much still divided. I mean, some of the people claim that, as long as there is internet and, people are selling things there, it's going to be like the cheap stuff, the stuff that nobody wants. So therefore, eventually, it's going to be that you're going to be buying fakes and forgeries. And I assume that artificial intelligence is going to play a role in creating even more fake ads. And, you know, eventually it's not going to be cultural heritage crime. What it's going to be, it's just going to be property crime. It's just going to be dupe, something that it's like itself taking money out of you and nothing else happens. Which some colleagues say, well, you know, but then let's them devote to this, and therefore we don't have to worry about them going to the sites and digging and things. I don't know. And of course, AI is going to help in detecting in the future, but that I think is more the forensic archaeologist
True.
point of view.
I think I totally agree with you. As every AI issue, it generates fears and promises at the same time. Totally agree with you about the fears and fakes and so on, but also this time I will be the most optimistic one, and I'll say that also I'll underline the opportunities that gives, especially in forensic archaeological research, when we have the data set from the looters, from the traffickers themselves, as we have in these opportunities with the archives. It will multiply the possibilities to make identifications much faster, much wider at the same time. So I think we are indeed thinking in the auspices of this project we are working now to create an algorithm that will do exactly that. We will feed them with images from museums, and therefore we will feed them at the same time with the images of the traffickers, and will allow it, with the fine-tuning, of course, to make automatic identifications. Having spoken with experts in AI, especially in Germany, that they received now a very prestigious, the most prestigious European Research Council grant, an advanced grant, 14.5 million euros for at last breaking the barrier with the Herculaneum Bern papyri collection at the Villa del Papyri. They got this huge grant now. 2 months ago, it was announced to work on that. I've spoken with the person, with the professor who is going to create this particular AI program. He showed interest on the algorithm that we are aiming to produce, and he says that this is a very noble endeavor, and indeed can work by producing by checking 500,000 images of museums, comparing them with the archival images within 7 hours. So you can understand the capacity to check at least European museums, first time in a continental level, with that algorithm, of course, working with the esteemed Pellegrini and Riccio that I said before, and myself, with the experience we have to double check and verify the results of the algorithm and not leaving it directly to it. So the human factor is still extremely important and will be. So yes, I'm very optimistic also, as I'm pessimistic in the various ways that these tools can be used by the dark side of the force. Yes.
Great, thank you. Of course, there is a roundtable on AI tomorrow. We just had a discussion on AI tools regarding our field. So I'd like to give the floor to the audience. I don't know, do we have a mic? Or?
You have a mic?
Yes, I have a mic for the audience. If you could present yourself before the question. Yes.
Hi, Gordon Hughes from Cardiff University. Where I'm coming from is slightly left field maybe from the current discussion. I'm particularly interested in criminology of empire and imperial legacies. And so I'm interested in the field of study really of cultural heritage criminology and its love letter to cultural heritage. Both for Mark, really, and for Christos, the focus chiefly, not exclusively, but chiefly has been on acquisitive cultural heritage crime. Let me play devil's advocate, if I may. What of oppressive cultural heritage and the harms done to those artifacts and memorializations. I'm thinking of some examples, obviously, Black Lives Matter and the statues of the colonial past, ISIS and the destruction of Persian cultural heritage, or indeed, not yet happened, but 2 years ago in Florence, most of the criminologists went to see the statues of ancient Rome, depicting rape, pillage, brutality, beheadings, and I guess similar stuff might be around in Athens. So I'm wondering about, do you focus on non-acquisitive crimes against cultural heritage, which seek to maybe erase that cultural heritage because it's seen as oppressive? And I'm wondering, because I'm as interested in ancient as well as modern imperial legacies. We tend to focus on modern imperial legacies when we want to destroy non-platform statues, literally. I'm wondering what and when are such memorializations to be valued or destroyed and erased from collective memory? Just a little question.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen, maybe my colleagues can later help me with here and we just come back to you, but I haven't seen much within criminology in these issues. I've read about these issues within cultural heritage studies, but not from us criminologists. I remember many, many years ago, I think it was the conference in Leuven maybe, where what was put at stake in this conference in one presentation was the Lombroso Museum and the exhibition of the heads of the criminals still in there, and whether these should be exhibited in museums or it was kind of immoral right now. But in that sense, this is more of a debate where we criminologists have not entered much, just because we try to stop this awful business that it keeps happening and happening and happening. But of course, this is a debate, and this is going to happen more and more. And this is something that we might want to address in the near future. But so far, at least most of the colleagues that I work with are dealing with the issues of trafficking, art theft, etc. But I have an opinion on the issue, even though I'm not a cultural heritage expert per se. I'm a criminologist, and we can share it later if you want. I'll be very happy.
I would like to add that, first of all, thank you for your question. It's very interesting, especially because you are referring to non-acquisitive attacks. I have to say, first of all, that the non-acquisitive attacks, I mean, not with this goal, to make a profit and so on, are occurring all around the world, and not just the countries of origin where the artworks have been created. They are still situated. So, for example, remember the viral in the social media attacks that they are still happening on the other side of the Atlantic on artworks that are of European origin, and I'm talking about, paintings, for example, that they are suffering because the attacks of various demonstrators, of environmentalists and so on. Whether someone agrees or disagrees, the motive is not to make a profit, of course. So they can be grouped easily on that. I think that this is the telling difference, but often, sometimes, subsequently, after the attack, the motive is still financial. So we have various attacks that they are not being made publicly for demonstration reasons, but for objects that they are being smashed in order to end up with the market. While seemingly and until detection or identification in the market subsequently, they seem as non-acquisitive attacks, and therefore just to destroy an object, and it is just a straightforward attack on cultural heritage. Indeed, in a substantial percentage, some of them, they end up in the market, and therefore it later only being revealed that the motive was indeed financial. So I totally agree with you. It's a separate, very interesting, and with Mark, absolutely, hub within the general issue of cultural heritage protection, I would say, rather than vandalism. But in these particular cases, maybe we have to wait extra long in order to identify the motive and therefore to identify and categorize finally the attack as non-acquisitive or non-financial gain or indeed for financial gain. But thank you very much for your question.
We have a question here.
For example, the person who is about to ask a question, Kim, has a great experience in the Belgian police about such kind of attacks as well, among others. But Kim, sorry, I didn't want to.
Yes, that's right. But my question is not about that. I'm Kim. I work with the Ghent local police. And we are also part of a Belgian research center against art crime. And I was actually fascinated by the whole thing that you said, that the trafficking of antiquities is a not punished crime, because it reminds me maybe it's similar to the trafficking, for example, of weapons by very powerful people and even nations. Because you said it yourself, the problem is actually the benefactors in many of these cases, like the universities they work with or are not interested in the research because of their benefactors. And the examples you gave, it's like the prominent museums, it's rich people, it's elite people. And then my question to you is, where do you think you can find lobby and support to counter this?
Thank you very much for your question, Kim. The straightforward answer is to all of you, to venues like this and beyond, to raise awareness by putting the details of each certain case in the news everywhere that can reach immediately internationally masses of people. This is how actually we are raising awareness, and not just a dead word or a letter at the closure of conference talks that usually, and I'm personally bored to say, and also we have to strengthen the laws, and also we have to raise awareness. Thank you very much. Actual things. I would like to see proofs and so on. So I think that the pressure is being created by changing the narrative based on proofs and the perceptions of the public first, who then create themselves a massive pressure towards these organizations, peoples involved, and so on. As for the wealthy and powerful people, yes, indeed, is one of the problems, not the only one, as I said, it's just a quarter of them. I'm just echoing words and research that have been done 3 decades ago, and I can just reference Professor Ricardo Elia, head of, until recently, the University of Boston Archaeological School, Department of Archaeology there, who wrote actually in an article in the mid-90s that collectors are the real looters, because they are creating a demand, because they are paying and therefore continuing and supporting financially the continuation of the pillaging and so on, while they are receiving goods and so on. So yes, I totally agree with you that this is a major issue, but just a quarter of the problem. Yes.
I might add one thing to Kim's question. Thank you very much, Kim, and also to your answer. Both Christos and myself have referred to these crimes, and we have shown you like these important collectors in both our instances. But I also want to raise one issue in here. When I was doing, well, I keep doing it from time to time when I always travel to Italy. I'm in touch with colleagues at Carabinieri who also refer me to looters that they know, etc., so I can interview them. Not only rich and powerful people buy this stuff. What I'm trying to tell you here is that, for example, statistics show a decline in particular countries. And it might be that, law enforcement is doing well the job, but it means also another thing. The business is becoming more and more hidden, just because of all the heat. So when I was doing the ethnography with looters, they were telling me, I'm a guy who knows their numbers, and I'm not using middlemen anymore. And I'm done selling to the important guys, because you know what? Most of the money will be in the hands of the dealer and the middleman, and I'm the one doing all the dirty work. So I'd rather sell to locals and to a bunch of collectors which are from my town or this area, and I'll show them what I find in the trunk of my car or in the parking of my place. And that persons who are buying these are not so powerful. They are just plain collectors who wanted to start a collection and make it quick. And this is a marriage made in heaven, because you have normal people who are not super wealthy elites who want a collection of antiquities and go straight to the person who digs them. And everybody profits. They buy it for a certain amount that is not super, super, super expensive, while the other makes the money all by himself with using intermediators, dealers, etc., etc. So I found that many of the looters that I interviewed are selling nowadays to people like us, and not only super rich elites. And that's a problem, and hence also calls the need for the intervention and education for collecting ethically. Because there will be always everyday new collectors in this field who are going to feel attracted. And the thing is how these people are going to collect. Are they going to collect ethically, or they are just going to go the dark path of the Force? We're very Star Wars today, sorry. So I just wanted to highlight the fact that, it's not always the super rich who are just buying these things.
I totally agree. I just want to add that because of the internet platforms, sale platforms, people who are not aware or educated about basics of provenance and why this matters, they are still buying, people like us, they are still buying antiquities from these platforms and being sent to their doorstep directly. Without often being detected by customs or anything, who in turn, they are also lacking the appropriate education and the legal tools in order to enforce that. So this is absolutely, this is a huge problem and reaches everywhere now because of the use of technology in such a way, just to add an extra notion.
Sí.
It's not just the locals, they are internationally anywhere, just to make a wedding gift or a baptism gift and so on, christening gift. It happens all the time. It still happens.
So I have a new question. Is the legislative framework supportive or not? For both of you. But
I always say it does what it can. It always falls short, but it always will fall short because they are 3 steps away from them. Changing criminal laws is completely another cup of tea. It's complicated. It requires majorities in parliaments. It requires study groups. And this is the problem. It's going slow. And it's going slow, and in the meantime, it's a transnational crime, and it's crossing borders, and it's happening in long periods of time. And these looters of mine have people who will follow their job, and they keep doing it day after day. And it's like, it's a race against time. Because the problem is that you will not find many more of these fantastic treasures that Christos has shown us. To them, it's still the issue of the treasure. They do see them as treasures that will make them rich. They do not see it as cultural heritage. And changing all this mentality through law reform, it's fighting against waves. It's like they keep coming at you, and just you can do with what you have and with the time you have. I've been a pessimist now.
Me too. But based on facts, I would say, let's see the facts. What the facts, the raw data are telling us. It's not a matter of opinion. Medici was convicted to spend his conviction of 8 to 10 years imprisonment detained in his villa. According to my information, during this time in his villa outside Rome, he created the second tennis court. Bettina never ended behind bars, even in detention, in his villa in Castelvetrano, outside Palermo, in Sicily. Symes was jailed for twice for contempt of court, not for antiquities trafficking. Convicted for 2 years, and jailed just for 7 to 9 months outside, in a prison outside London. I have testified because I have participated in 142, if I remember, 144 raids with the Greek Police Arts Code 17 years ago, before I left for England. And I often testified in the Greek courts against people who were found, also people with galleries here in Athens, in the center of Athens, who are jewelry galleries, not antiquities galleries necessarily, just selling jewelries. And they have incorporated in new gold jewelry ancient coins, often Roman, always in Greek, made of copper even, of bronze. And they have been jailed. They got jailed sentences from the Greek court for 2 or 3 Roman bronze coins that cannot be sold in the market for more than 30 euros altogether. But I haven't seen Michael Steinhardt and his wife Judy Steinhardt of their collection for 180 objects that I told you, amounting to $69 million, suffer any jail at all, even in detention, even in paper, in theory. The biggest case that we had in Greece, the Schinoussa case, where the Symes Michailidis archive was discovered, was finalized 19 and a half years afterwards. I had the opportunity for the appeal court to finally, after 11 attempts, to testify this last April here in Athens. Eventually, they were, the people charged, they were convicted to 3.5 years imprisonment, suspended. Does it work, really, the laws? Evidently not. Or not for the big fishes, only for the small ones. Pure facts, not an opinion, just facts.
And I haven't interviewed a single looter who has spent prison time, like not a single one. Suspended sentences, etc. So
we are in an academic venue today. We are obliged to present facts in order to form knowledgeable opinions. We are not allowed to express just personal opinions that can be largely unfounded. Just pure facts. And then we can make knowledgeable opinions.
So we have some more time for questions from you. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, both. Really, really interesting. My name is Brian. I come from Ireland. My question is about regulation. You touched on the involvement of private bodies, and I think it was ICOMOS in terms of a Blue Shield. On a scale from complete failure to complete success, where do we put the private efforts there? Because I'm thinking of failures in banking, in accountancy, and in terms of construction, where private bodies are meant to regulate and ultimately don't. What has been your own experience in terms of this particular domain?
say a number.
I'm not going to say a number. I'm just going to say in terms of regulation that since always, decades now, in the most official way, by their own associations, the dealers, the Antiquities Dealers Associations, the International IADA, Antiquities Dealers Association, Nielsen Art, and so on, are advocating for self-regulation. And largely, this is what is still happening. They are self-regulating because there are no sanctions. There is no punishment. There is a logos and there is a crime, but there is no punishment, to use the logo of our conference this year. So we have evidently seen where it actually led the unregulated or the self-regulated, like the market ones, have led in practice. In all these scandals, revealing repatriations, claims, at least we know multiple times more than we used to suspect only back until 1995, which is the year of the first raid against Medici, the discovery of his archive. So a huge progress, and we now understand that self-regulation is not actually working. It actually produces crimes and criminals. The problem here and today's discussion is that continues to be unpunished. It seems, though, that even states should be further regulated or having indeed stricter laws when we see actual cases get away with it and so on.
One anecdote is that one of the last reports of the US Treasury regarding the art market said, let's leave it unregulated as it is, because, you know, poor dealers, they have enough on their hands and this and that's a problem. It's still the Far West, it's still a shady wall where handshakes are everything and no paper traces or anything, and that's a problem, I completely agree. I mean, and the private associations who are trying to do something about this are more knowledgeable about cultural heritage rather than cultural heritage crime and these dynamics sometimes, and it's like, you know, they try to do what they can, the ones that are against trying to fight this, but it's always complicated. As you have seen, we have like named several different like initiatives in our talk, and most of the time they just work parallelly, and it's complicated to just bring everyone together and try to see like the lines and everything as it's happening. But of course, as long as we leave it unregulated, the market, this is going to be the Wild West, which is what's been up to right now, this moment, 12:15.
So thanks a lot. I think it's time for lunch, but we can go on discussing all these interesting issues during lunchtime.
Please do get in touch. We are always available to have any further discussions in cooperation with any of you.
And thanks again very much to the organizing
Professor,
committee.
Thank you.